Okay, hi friends, hi knitting friends out there in the interwebs. Welcome back to my knitting room. If you're new here, my name is Melissa and you can find me at Stitches Be Slippin on Instagram. And this is the Stitches Be Slippin YouTube channel where I mainly talk about knitting, some other types of making adventures sometimes because I have ADHD and I get distracted very easily. Today's video is going to be a little different. This isn't going to be a podcast episode where I have finished objects, works in progress, that kind of acquisitions, that kind of stuff. Today they're all finished, so that's kind of fun. On my last episode, I talked about possibly making a video to show you all of my most worn knits, and a lot of you said yes, we would like to see that, so here you go. I have not put a lot of thought into this, so you get what you get. I have not watched any other videos of other podcasters who have shown their most worn knits, so we'll see what happens. I have multiple categories. I had a lot of trouble narrowing things down. So who knows how long this is going to be. I've made a lot of garments. I've made a lot of tops. I've made a lot of things in my knitting journey so far. But there are definite standouts. There are definite favorites of mine that I reach for consistently. And there are certainly some in my pile in my knitting. I have like a pile of knitted stuff on top of my dresser in my closet. I really need a more elegant way to store my knits, but for now, there are some that get ignored time and time again, and I reach for the same ones over and over, so I thought maybe I might share that with you. One thing to keep in mind is that I am a fairly tiny human. I am 5'1". I think I have fairly normal, regular shoulder to, I have a 34-inch bust, if that helps you. I don't know what the measurement of my shoulders is, but just keep in mind, everybody is different, and some garments that might look good on my body might look different on different bodies and that kind of thing. I highly, highly recommend, if there's anything that you like the fit of on me, I highly recommend that you go to Ravelry. I will put all the links and everything down below. Go to Ravelry, to that pattern, and look in the projects and find pictures of that pattern on bodies that look like you, to see if, some patterns look great on some bodies and not so great on other bodies. I really, really try very hard to choose size inclusive patterns. I don't think I have any in here that are not, but correct me if I'm wrong. I don't really want to be promoting patterns that aren't size inclusive. What else was I going to say? Lost it. Anyway, I have multiple categories. I think I said already I was having trouble narrowing it down. So I have some categories for you. I have sweaters, I have cardigans, I have warmer weather, like summer, spring type clothes. I have one fancy item, and I have some accessories. And then I also have a sort of like a bonus bonus suggestions of the most gifted items that I've knit. So we'll get into all that later. Okay, so we're gonna start out with sweaters because I'm already wearing one of them. And if you watched my recent podcast, you've already seen this, but here it is again. This beautiful sweater is called the Traveler. It's just called the Traveler. The pattern is just called the Traveler by Andrea Mowry. And this pattern includes this option, which is just the crew neck option. The photos for the pattern are this sweater with a hoodie. And so you have the option of making the hoodie one or the crew neck, and I made the crew neck. So I am not going to remember what size I made in any of these. And I know I just said go into Ravelry and look at project pages and pictures and stuff, but I never do that for my own projects. So I apologize. I am really, really bad at updating Ravelry. I just never find the time to do it unless I'm doing a test knit, and then I always put it on there. Yes, thank you to those who do, who are very efficient and organized and make my life easier when I'm looking at a pattern and want to see what it looks on bodies like mine. So yeah, anyway, so this is, yeah, the Traveler. And I will show you a little of how it fits. So this is how, so it's got a little crease in there now, but it is a drop shoulder, which is, you will see, you're gonna see some trends here as I keep going. You'll see that this is in a very nice neutral color. I tend towards neutrals, blushes, kind of dusty tones, that kind of stuff. And this is one of those. I also really, really prefer a drop shoulder sweater just for the way it fits, I guess. I don't know. I just really always reach for a drop shoulder over anything else. I've made a bunch of raglans. I've made a few circular yokes. Oh, there's one circular yoke in here. I really don't wear circular yokes at all because I don't find that they fit well. Like I find that like when you lift your arms, the whole thing comes up, and like I find it really hard to, without short rows, to fit front and back. I don't like it when it creeps up in the front of my neck, or if there's like a, when there's no short rows in the back and it kind of bunches up in the front, because the back of your neck is higher than the front of your neck. So you need those short rows in the back to make it sit properly on your body, and your body doesn't go straight across here, I'm not very good at explaining stuff, okay? For this pattern, I used Red Stag Fiber in their, what's it called? I'll put all the information below. So my show notes are gonna look a little different today. So for everything I show you, I'll put the pattern and I'll put the yarn that I used, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so I have been reaching for this a lot lately. I only finished it a few weeks ago, I think, but the yarn is really, it's a sport weight. I didn't say that. So it's a really true sport weight. It's not a fingering weight. It's not a DK. It's right in the middle. And it's a really lovely base that's very squishy, and it softened up a lot when I blocked it. And it's just a really comfy, like when I'm wearing it, I'm never like pulling it down or like adjusting or anything like that. And with the sleeves, I can pull them up like this and they stay up, which I do a lot. Anyway, enough of that one. Let's move on. So, what am I gonna, sweaters. Okay. So the next sweater is, I have two of them because I really love this pattern. I actually have a third one that's like halfway done that I kind of abandoned a long time ago, and I just need to knit the sleeves. If you've been following me long enough, that you won't be surprised by that. I really, really hate knitting sleeves, which is funny because I love making sweaters and I love wearing sweaters, and I hate knitting sleeves. Okay, so the next pattern is called Clove. I don't know if it's the Clove sweater or the Clove. It is by Rachel Kurohara, and again, I'll put the link down below. Oh yeah, I think I'm probably going to do about 1 million costume changes here, because it's one thing to see a picture of someone wearing it and it's been like stylized and you're like posing and whatever. I find it different to see people wearing them and see how they just actually move around and whatever. When I'm watching podcasts, I find it way more informative to see someone wearing it and moving around in it as opposed to just seeing a picture of it on their Instagram or whatever. Yeah, so anyway, I'm gonna change into my first clove. Okay, I'm back. This is my first clove sweater that I made. Again, the pattern is by Rachel Kurihara, and it is a very simple drop shoulder sweater, and it has a folded over collar. And I can't remember if this is in the pattern or if I did this. I think it's in the pattern, but it has a split hem and it's a little bit high-low. So the front hem's a little shorter than the back. And I think it's just because it's the high-low hem that it obviously is longer in the back, but there's no short rows in the back to make the back longer. This is just how it sits. So I love this pattern. It really fits me really, really well. Like I said, with the Traveler drop shoulder, I just really love how they fit. Like sometimes with raglans and circular yokes, you feel like you're kind of adjusting it and like pulling it up, and maybe the neck's a little too wide or something. I really like the folded over collar because it is really strong. When you do the collar first and then just keep knitting, then there's nothing for all of those stitches to hang off of. It's all just your knitting. When you do pick up those stitches and then fold it over and attach those stitches, it makes that seam really strong. Like there's no stretch there. So when you have your collar, it stays put. I really, really, really hate it when the neck is really stretched out. Some people really like a wide neck. I do not. I like my collar to stay put and stay where it is. I feel very fidgety. Hopefully I don't look very fidgety. Yeah, so this yarn that I used is Sonder Yarn Co. in their DK base, Sunday Morning DK, I think it's called. And this was the colorway so it's a really like dusty purple, like grayish purple. And it was the first purple sweater that I ever knit, and I really, really fell in love with this color. I really like this yarn. It's really dirty. This is something on my hem. I really like this yarn. It feels a bit scratchy when you're working with it. It's a natural base. I think I can't remember what it is now. I don't have any with me. Masham. I can't remember. I'll put the link down below to the yarn, Sonder Yarn Co. Sunday Morning DK. Yeah, so like I said, drop shoulder fits me really well. It's a really boxy fit. There's quite a bit of ease. You can see like that's where my body ends and that's how much ease. I really like this kind of fit. I find it really comfortable as opposed to a tighter fit. If it's tighter around my waist or my pants, then I feel like I'm always like pulling it down. But like this, I feel more comfortable. So yeah, and now I'll show you my next one. Okay, so this is clove number 2. After I finished that purple one, I immediately cast this one on because I loved the purple one so much and was wearing it all the time. So this is the same pattern, the clove sweater by Rachel Kurihara. And it's not a striped pattern. I just added some stripes. Right around the time that I made this sweater, another sweater came out that was not really size inclusive. And it was basically the same thing, like a drop shoulder with stripes. And I was like, well, I can do stripes myself. I don't need a pattern to do that. So now I'm trying to remember how I did the stripes. Okay, I think that's the pickup there. This is where the drop shoulder pickup is. So I knit, what I did is, so with a drop shoulder, you start in the back, knit the back panel, pick up, knit the front, join, knit, knit, knit. And then once you join in the round, that's where I started my stripes. So the whole front and back panel were all in this color. This is, again, DK weight yarn from Sandnes Yarn Co. I think this was called Flat White, and I can't remember what this was called. Oh, I have it written down. Flat White and Cover to Cover. This is Cover to Cover. It kind of looks black, but it's a really nice dark blue, navy blue. What was I saying before that? Oh yeah. So I knit the whole front and back in the flat white. And then after the second I joined in the round, I started adding the stripes in. And let me see if they're even, no, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the blue stripes are 4 rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the flat white rounds are 5 rounds. So 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. And where did I end up? I ended with a blue round, and then I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just as I was ready for another blue stripe, I started the hem. And this one is a split hem too, with the high-low. Yeah, I was a little worried about it when I was knitting the stripes, because when you're knitting it, it looks like this, right? You don't have arms in to weigh it down. So I picked up and started with the blue stripe and did the same 4, 5, 4, 5. So when I was knitting it, I was like, okay, well, this is gonna look weird. But when I did some research and I looked at other drop sweaters that had stripes on the sleeves, like lower stripes like this, and they were all like starting at the pickup. So I trusted it and it worked out really well. So it just sort of looks like the stripe just goes all the way across, sort of. They sort of line up, sort of. Yeah, and same folded collar. And yeah, I wear these ones a lot. I call this one my like preppy sailor, I don't know. I feel like I should be like on a sailboat in like New York or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to my next sweater. Okay, can you believe it? It's another drop shoulder. Don't worry, I do have a couple of things in here that are not drop shoulder, but yeah, almost all the sweaters I wear are drop shoulder. It's just the fit that I like. This sweater is also pretty recent. This was a test knit that I did for Leslie of Knit California. This is called the California sweater. It just came out in the middle of September. And this is a larger gauge. It's meant for fingering weight and mohair or suri held together so that you have like some fluff to fill in those like big stitches. I think it was a 15 stitch gauge, if I remember correctly, 15 or 16. So big needles, knits up super fast. I did modify the neckline. It's supposed to be a folded neckline, but when I tried it on to see if it was long enough to fold over, I really liked the kind of mock neck type look that it was, and so I just left it like that. So once again, it's a drop shoulder. This one does not have this split on the side, but I don't know if you can see my halo there. For this one, I used Polka Dot Creek fingering and suri held together in the colorway Vintage. Yeah, so you'll notice there's a lot of blush pink in my life. Let's say I really, really love it. This sweater is so cozy. It is so soft, and it just feels like a big yarn hug when you put it on. I've gotten a lot of wear out of this in like the month or two that I've had it finished. I hope you guys like this, because I feel like I'm just saying this is this sweater and I really like it and I wear it a lot. But I've basically just shown you this and the last two were very, very similar. They're all very similar construction. So my next one will be a little bit different construction. So let's get to that. Okay, look at me wearing a raglan, hey? I know. Okay, this is the Elma sweater by Pacific Knot Co. Not Pacific Knit Co., the one who does all the colorwork doodles and stuff. This is Pacific Knot Co. And I test knit this sweater for her, I don't know when it was, at least a year ago. And so it's a mock slash turtleneck that goes fairly wide around, but it sits really nice. I did modify this a little bit, and I added short rows in the back so that it wouldn't like get that lump in the front. It still does sometimes just because of how many stitches and how wide it is, but it does sit quite nicely. So that is a raglan. You can see the raglan increases there. And this is also a fingering and mohair held together. I do have, I really like the fluff. So yeah, so this one's a bit longer, just a little bit. I like neutrals. I like a boxy fit. I like fluff. I like a strong neckline, I guess you could say. This one I wear to hockey a lot when my kids have hockey, because it's nice and fluffy and warm, and it goes up my neck to keep my neck warm. I don't really know what else to say about it, but it's, again, just, even though it's not that drop shoulder construction, it fits nicely. It's got a little bit of ease. It's not a ton of ease, as much as the clove sweaters or the California sweater also had quite a bit of ease. I didn't say that. This is probably, I don't know, 6 inches of ease or something, I would say. But yeah, it's very, very cozy. This is kind of like my professor vibe, like, yeah, I don't even know. I'm just kind of scrambling for things to say at this point. I really should have planned this a little bit better. I think those are all my most worn knits. Yeah, clearly the drop shoulder is a winner. If it has mohair, that really like ups the value and my desire to wear it. Mohair or Surrey. The California sweater is Surrey. This one is mohair. Yeah, drop shoulder, boxy. I find that they're just super wearable. You can wear them. They're very versatile. They fit in my wardrobe quite nicely. I pretty much always wear jeans, like fairly high-waisted jeans. Yeah, anyway. Let's move on to cardigans, shall we? Okay, we're back. I only have 2 cardigans that I'm going to show you. I haven't knit a ton of cardigans. I do need to knit more, because these 2 I reach for constantly. Like if I'm not wearing a knitted sweater and it's a day where I'm wearing knitted things, I don't always wear knitted things. I don't always wear knitted things, but when I do, I wear knitted things that I knit myself. Is that like what's the beer guy? I don't know. Dos Equis, is that what it is? I don't know. Anyway, this is the Winter's Beach cardigan by Andrea Mowry. Yes, I did. I was like, did I say what that pattern was? Yes, I did. Okay. This is the Winter's Beach Winter's Beach by Andrea Mowry. And it is an not all over, but mostly all over cabled cardigan. It is a DK weight. It's got all the cables on the back. I really like the length of it. Like, it's not a crazy long cardigan. I really like cardigans this length. Sort of like the length of my boxy sweaters. I'm a boxy drop shoulder kind of girl. What can I say? There is a little secret pop of neon in there, and that is Surrey. Oh, okay, let's talk about yarn. This is Polka Dot Creek in their DK Tweed base. And I dyed this myself, I think, or we dyed it at Polka Dot Creek. I used to work at Polka Dot Creek as a yarn dyer. And so this is sort of like a special colorway, but it's close to their Oatmeal colorway, I would say. It's a little bit lighter, but it's very close. I know it doesn't necessarily look like it's been dyed. It's very close to a natural color, but I did add just like a little bit of warmth to it, and I really like it. This base is, it's amazing too. It's the stitch definition on the cables is pretty incredible. And it's like, it's really soft and it's a very springy, it's a heavier DK weight, and it hangs beautifully. The construction of this makes it so that it's not coming off of your shoulders. It sits really nicely. I can't remember how it was constructed. I think I did a 3-needle bind off up at the top here on these ones, and that helps with structure on a cardigan, to have that, like, sometimes on cardigans at the top the stitches get really stretched out because your whole sweater is hanging off of there. So having, where is it? I can't even, oh, there it is. There's a little line right there. That's my 3-needle bind off on the top. And that gives it some structure, something to hang off of that's not gonna stretch out all your stitches. I know it looks really complicated, but the cables were not hard at all. You just had to keep track of which row you were on and which cable you were doing. They're not like fancy complicated cables. They're not like huge cables where you have to twist a whole bunch at a time. The biggest thing that got me through this cardigan was learning how to cable without a cable needle. And I know it sounds so scary, and ooh, what if you like drop all those stitches? Those stitches aren't going anywhere. Please watch, I'll put a link down below if I can. Sometimes when I try to link actual YouTube videos, it doesn't work. But if it doesn't work, Google, oh crap, I'll put it down here. I think it's like Andrea Mowry, how to cable without a cable needle. I can't remember what it's called, but it's an excellent video that shows you how to like just twist your stitches and then you just knit them all across, and it's so much faster than using a cable needle, and it's not disruptive, and you can just get things done. So I highly recommend that. This pink in the inside here is from Lillian Pine, who's a local dyer here in Calgary, and it's her lipstick colorway, and that's Surrey held double in there, so it's a nice soft little surprise. This isn't a cardigan where I would put my hands in my pockets because I don't usually walk around like this, but it looks cute with the pockets there, and I know that I've got that little inside. Yeah. Did I talk about everything with this? I think I was saying a while ago that if I'm not wearing a knitted sweater, I'm wearing like a t-shirt or a tank top with a knitted cardigan. So that leads me to my other cardigan, which is probably the most worn knit of all time. My most worn knit of all time is this cardigan, 100% hands down. And if you've been here on this channel long enough, you're not going to be surprised at all. I think I've probably worn this in a number of episodes. But this is called the Amapola cardigan, and it is by Claudia Quintanilla / EweKnit Toronto, and it's amazing. It's, shocker of all shockers, a drop shoulder cardigan, but just it's the right length. It's a little bit longer than the Winter's Beach cardigan. It's just a combination of like the V-neck I really like, the drop shoulder I really like, the fabric that is created with this yarn and this gauge I love. I made this cardigan with a kit from EweKnit Toronto because they're the ones that designed it, and this is the color palette that they designed it in, and it was a drops air held together with, I believe it was a Sandnes garn mohair. So it's drops air is like a worsted weight, I would say. It's like one of those fluffy, like blown in yarns that it takes up a lot of space, but is also really, really lightweight because there's a lot of air in, I don't know how to describe it. And it's just, it keeps you warm, but it's really, really, really light. So this is, I think it's considered a bulky weight sweater, but it's so light. Like it's lighter than that cabled cardigan I just showed you. But yeah, the other thing that was really fun about this cardigan was the way that the button band is knit. So you knit this whole deal, and then as usual with a cardigan, that's the other thing I liked about this, is you didn't have to, there's no buttons on it. I very rarely ever knit up. I very rarely ever button up my cardigans. So this one doesn't have any buttonholes in it at all. It's just, and it was all knit at the same time. You didn't have to pick up and add the collar to it. And then this one, you did have to add the collar afterwards, but you don't pick up all the way around and then knit back and forth all the way around. On this one, you start at the bottom, you pick up, and I think you cast on, and then you go back here, and then you like, I can't remember what it was, but you like join together with that stitch and knit across, and then come back and join together. I don't remember exactly what the instructions are, obviously by the pattern if you want to find out, but you just go back and forth knitting it, and it creates this really nice like slip stitch detail up there and all the way around. So obviously it's upside down on this side, but it's right side up. On this side, you can see that slip stitch all the way down. So you're slipping and like, I think doing it, I can't remember if it was a decrease or whatever, joining the stitches together. But it was a really enjoyable way to do a button band, like a whole entire all the way around button band. I much prefer that than picking up and knitting back and forth all the way around. Oh, one other thing about this cardigan. I loved this cardigan so much, still do. I wear it constantly. Anytime I am cold, anytime I just need to throw something on quickly, I wear this. I wear this around the house all the time. So I bought yarn to make another one. And I actually didn't buy yarn. I had some yarn in my stash that was similar to Drops Air, and I believe it was a hobby or Hobie yarn with like similar construction. Like there's different brands have their own all their own versions of like that Drops Air type of yarn, and it was like a blue. It doesn't matter. But I didn't hold it with mohair, so I remade this whole cardigan with that yarn, but not held with mohair, and I didn't like it at all. So I don't know what it is. I think the mohair, because of the silk strand in the middle, I think it just helps give this more structure. Like, yes, it adds a little bit, it adds some fluff and some softness, but Drops Air is already really soft. but adding that mohair to this gives the stitches some stability and some support, I guess. Because when I made it with the other yarn, like it was, I don't know what to say. Maybe the mohair also like helps, the fluff helps fill in because it's a fairly large gauge. So maybe helps fill in those gaps in between the stitches. But I felt like when I had the other one on that I made, it felt like the stitches were all like really getting stretched out, especially up here where it hangs off of the shoulders. And I just really didn't like it at all. I wore it a couple times and then I was like, I think I gave it away because I was not going to wear it because this one is just way better. So I will probably eventually have to make another one of these exactly the same because I wear this constantly. I didn't show you the sleeves. They're kind of like a bell sleeve where you knit straight and then you just do a rapid decrease at the end. I love it. This is absolutely my most worn knit of all time. What are the buttons? I think the buttons, I just found they're kind of like grayish, pearlish kind of, I don't know. I got them at work when I was working at Polka Dot Creek. Okay, let's move on to warmer weather short sleeve type knits. Okay, I'm gonna have to like kind of fly through these short sleeve ones because it's a little cold in here. We haven't really had to turn our heat on in our house yet, but I think we're going to have to soon because it's getting chilly out and it's a little cold in here. Usually it's like flaming hot in here and I can't wear knits in here at all. Anyway, this is the Velocore by Andrea Mowry, and it is, again, like if you were making sleeves, you would pick up here, it would be like a drop shoulder construction. This one is also a 3 needle. This is kind of like sort of her signature type construction where you do the ripping at the top and then the 3 needle bind off to join the shoulders. It creates a bit of a boat neck, which I don't love a boat neck. This one is not too bad. Like it doesn't go all the way out to the ends of my shoulders. I don't really like it when you can see, like if I'm wearing a tank top underneath, I don't really like that. But it's not too bad. Usually when I do an Andrea Mowry pattern that has this type of neck, I just join more stitches on the shoulder bind off than she tells me to. I feel like there's just a little bit extra in there, but I do still wear this a lot. This is one of my most worn short sleeved knits. This is knit in fingering weight yarn. The neutral color is, I can't remember what the colorway is called, but it is from Amelia and Philomene, which is a dyer out in Quebec. And the contrast color is just like a multicolor variegated. Let's see if I can get you a little close up here. And that yarn was from Megs & Co, which is in the Rochester area in New York. It was a gift from my friend Karen. And it's just, this is a great pattern for if you have like a really like multicolored, variegated, just like that you bought that you thought was really pretty that now you don't know what to do with. This is a really good pattern for that. You can do it with a dark main color, you can do it with or you could use that for the main color and then use a solid neutral for the other color in between. Anyway, it's a very comfy, again, sort of drop shoulder construction, boxy. I like always do a little tuck, and yeah, it's fairly neutral, even though it's got that really nice colorful skein in there. And it's not just a straight like ribbing style slip stitch or anything up there. There's a little bit of a twist in there, but that was not hard to do. I found it quick to knit. Another lady, a couple of other ladies in my knit night knitted, and they found it a bit of a slog I think they found it a little boring. It's fingering weight, so yeah, it takes a while. And like the rows in between here are garters, so that it will take you longer to get more inches because garter stitch just takes longer. But I found it really enjoyable to knit. I found the pattern really easy to follow, easy to memorize. I didn't have to look at the pattern a lot. And then I just really like how, you know, it's visually interesting. It's not just a boring stockinette piece, which obviously I love boring stockinette pieces, but this was just like a little more interesting and pretty. And I don't know, I don't think I had anything else to say about that. I don't think I made any modifications. And it really is just knit a square and basically join it at the top. There weren't any short rows or shaping or anything that I can remember, just because of the stitch pattern. It would kind of get disrupted, I think, if you were doing that. Anyway, let's move on to my next short sleeve. Okay, my next and my last, actually, short sleeve. I don't wear short sleeve knits a lot because usually if I'm wearing short sleeves, it's warm enough out that I can't really wear wool. But I've made a lot of short sleeve sweaters because I hate knitting sleeves. So there are a number of things that I've made where it was supposed to be long sleeve, but by the time I got to there, I was like, I am done. And this actually is one of those occasions, but I feel like it was meant to be because this is my most worn short sleeve knit for sure. I had another short sleeve one that I was going to put in, but I wouldn't consider it one of my most worn knits. I probably wear it once a year in like the spring-ish or fall maybe. But this one I wear more than that. Once again, it's a neutral. Once again, it is fingering and mohair held together. This one, however, is a circular yoke. So look at me. I do wear a circular yoke sometimes. I think this is the only one though. I have a few other circular yokes that I've knit that I try to put them on because they're really pretty, and then I'm just so uncomfortable in them. They're just like, I'm always adjusting them and I just take it off. I'm like, fuck it. Yeah, so if you don't know, this is the Love Note by Tin Can Knits. If you're looking to make a love note, my friend Nicole, who is Prof Pearl on Instagram and Professor Pearl on YouTube, is hosting a Love Note Love Knit Along at the moment. I think it goes from October till the end of November, I think. So if you haven't made one of these, please do yourself a favor and make one. There's so many people out there who have made so many love notes. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I've made 4, I think. This one is my favorite for sure. I'm not sure what the difference is. I think this one I made smaller. It does tend to, the pattern has a lot of ease. So I think I made the pattern that was recommended for my bust size and then it was too big. And the collar was getting stretched out and I really didn't like that. This one, I was going to knit long sleeve, but when I got here, I just really liked it. So I just kept it. So this is, I think it calls for short rows in the back to make the back a little bit longer, which I did because I love a high-low. You guys are gonna get tired of watching me tuck my shirts into my pants. So yeah, these are the beautiful, ooh, it's wiggling. My tripod thing is wiggling because I moved. So the beautiful lace leaf motif. It looks scary and it looks hard, but it's not. So if you're scared, don't be scared. It'll be okay. If you've never tried lace, this is the perfect first lace pattern for you. It's a circular yoke, so you're doing increases as you're knitting round and round, but between here and here in the lace pattern, there's no increases. So, and it's only a 12 stitch repeat. So you can put a stitch marker after every 12 stitches all the way around. Yeah, you gotta have a lot of stitch markers, but it's so worth it. You can do that 12 stitch repeat, and then when you get to the end, you just do it again. And if you get to the end of that 12 stitch repeat and you're like, I did something bad, then it's just within that last repeat. So then you don't have to like rip all the way back to where your beginning of round is. You just look inside that repeat, frog it back 10 stitches or whatever, and start again. So highly, highly recommend. And it's very easy. The lace is, it's not hard. Lace is not hard, but this is also very simple lace. Okay, this yarn is, the fingering weight is Polka Dot Creek in Bee's Knees, which is my favorite colorway of all time, hands down. It's a beautiful colorway. I was actually there the day that Shelly created this colorway, and it was magnificent. It's a really, really pretty like neutral colorway with like some pink and yellowish, rusty, gray, like it's just a beautiful colorway. And I held that together with, I think it was either a neutral, like undyed mohair or like a light sand colored mohair. I can't remember. I've had this one for quite a long time. But yeah, other than that, this is the love note, and I highly recommend that you make one once in your lifetime because it's really fun to make. It's also a really big gauge, so it knits up really, really fast, especially if you don't make the sleeves. Okay, moving on. Okay, I'm back in my Traveler because it's comfy and cozy. I'm going to show you my one fancy knit. I've knit a couple of fancy things, but this is the one that I reach for. If I need to like wear something fancy, I guess. Let's just use the word fancy a lot. Like I knit this to wear to a wedding with like a knife pleated skirt. I'll put a picture up here. I'm not gonna put this on for you right now because it's too cold in here. But this is the Sunset Camisole by Sari Nordland. And it's a very simple tank top. You knit the whole tank top, and then after you're done, I think, it's been a while since I made this, but you just like pick up stitches all the way across and knit a ruffle across. So it's a very simple, easy thing to do. I did modify it a little bit on the bottom. This is supposed to be like you knit a purl round and then you fold it under for a folded hem. So I did the purl round, and when I got to the bottom, I just kind of liked how that looked. And so I just bound it off and it stayed like this. The yarn that I used, probably the reason why it did stay like that and it didn't roll up is because this yarn I used is Lion brand, what was it? Trubu, I think, which is 100% bamboo, which means it's very slippery and it's not super fun to work with because it's very splitty, but it drapes like a motherfucker. It is so soft and so drapey. So when you put it on, it's almost like you're wearing a silk blouse. Like that's what it feels like. There is no memory whatsoever. It just drapes wherever. So, yeah, I wore this to a wedding with a skirt, like I showed you. Sometimes if we go out for a nice dinner, I'll wear this with like some high-waisted pants or with like a blazer or something over top. Yeah, it's fancy. I don't wear fancy things a lot, so I really like having a little fancy thing that I've knit that I can go to an event and be like, yeah, I knit it, you know. And then people be like, oh my God, it's so amazing. I'm like, yeah, I know. Anyway, I will move on now to accessories, which is my last category of things to show you. So I would say my most worn knitted accessory is my fleur shawl. So this shawl is called Fleur, or Fleur in French, by Espace Tricot. It's a free pattern, and it's actually, the pattern is for a shawl that's much bigger than this, but it takes fingering and mohair. It has mohair in it. It is blush pink. It is something that I like. It has all these little baubles on it, which are not hard to do. The instructions for the baubles on this are actually really, really, really good. And it's the way that you knit it in the instructions after you've done the bauble. I can't remember how, but like somehow you like wrap your yarn around the bauble to strangle it so that it stays out on that side and doesn't poke through to the back. So that's why they're all very perky baubles. Anyway, the pattern is for a bigger shawl. It's fingering weight and mohair held together, and you're supposed to use 2 skeins of each. I used 1 skein of each and called it a day. So it's just a little, it's still a decent size. But again, I'm a tiny human and I don't generally wear giant shawls, which is hilarious because I'm starting the Stephen West MCAL in 2 days, which is like, I think it's 4 skeins plus a mohair dare. So anyway, I wear this under my winter jacket sometimes when it's really cold out. Sometimes if I'm getting fancy, sometimes we have to go to these like stupid fancy charity ball type things with Dave's work. So I'll wear, if I'm wearing something that like a dress, strappy dress or sleeveless, strapless or whatever, sometimes I take this and I just wrap it around myself to stay warm. And it's cute. It's so cute. Anyway, like I said, it's a free pattern from Espace Tricot, and there is someone made, she like hacked it and turned it into like just the way that you do your increases on the ends. She turned it from a triangle shape into a crescent shape. And she put her notes on Ravelry, and I can't remember, I think it was, I'll put it down below. The reason I know of it is because Leanne from the Knitty Stew used that hack and made one herself. And I really, really like that. So I do intend to do that one day, to make that crescent shawl version of it. But when I find it, I will find it. I will put the link down below to that Ravelry page that has the instructions for that hack to make it into a crescent shawl. Like I said, I don't wear shawls a lot, so I only have 2 to show you that are in my most worn knits. This is the first shawl I ever knit, and I don't think I ever blocked it, which is why you can't see the eyelids as well. But this is the, what was it? Free Your Fade by Andrea Mowry. These are kind of the patterns that made her the most, made her hugely famous. The big one was Find Your Fade, and that one I think is like 7 colors or something, and it's an enormous shawl. This one is a three color fade. So I started with, shocker, a dusty pink, and then I faded it into a gray, speckly, and then the gray. This isn't really much of a fade, but then I transitioned into this color. Like I said, this was the very first shawl I ever made, and I didn't really know much. I hadn't really even bought very much hand-dyed yarn before, so when I was trying to choose colors for it, I don't know, I think I did pretty well. I think the pink into the gray looks really nice. This transition isn't as great, but it's still pretty, and it's a decent size. This is the fingering weight version. There is also a DK weight version, and it has like a picot bind off on the end. Like I said, I didn't block it, so it's a little lumpy. But having said that, I didn't block it and whatever, it's still like, it's a decent size. And like I said, when it's cold out, I wear it under my winter jacket. I don't tend to wear shawls just like sitting around or as part of my outfit, because I don't, like I've said before, I don't like to just, I would just constantly be fiddling with it and feeling like it's falling off and all that kind of stuff. So I really just use them for warmth. But this and my fleur shawl are really the only ones that I use for that. I would say probably honorable mention to my Comfort Zone shawl, which is a pattern by my friend Nicole, who is the Prof Pearl. And I might just grab that because it's hanging up here. So I would say honorable mention to this one because I have worn this one a few times. Most shawls that I make, I never ever wear. I just sometimes enjoy like switching it up and making it a shawl instead of a sweater. And so this is the Comfort Zone shawl by Nicole Enzinger, who's the Prof Pearl, Professor Pearl. And it's a really simple but beautiful shawl. It's meant for fingering weight and mohair, and it is meant so that you can use up all of your yarn. So it's a simple repeat with easy increases and stuff, and you just keep increasing and increasing and just keeping track of your yarn. And then you just, when you run out of yarn, you stop knitting. So it turns into a really nice size. It's a nice big gauge. So you turn it, you like end up with, this is only one skein of each, fingering and mohair. And this is bigger than both of those ones that I showed you before. So it's a nice big one. I actually I didn't have this when I went to my last fancy event to like wrap around myself, but this would be a nice neutral to do that with as well. So now I have mohair in my mouth. Okay, I have a few more and then I think we'll be done. Well, and then I'm gonna talk about gift knitting. Let's talk about hats first. I have 2 hats that I've knitted, toques if you're Canadian, that I've knitted that I wear a lot. The first one is, this is the Manhattan Hat Bulky, and shock of shockers, I used, this one is actually the bulky weight version, so I used a worsted weight pink and held it together with a pink mohair, because that is how I roll. I do believe that I used, oh, I didn't say what yarn I used for any of the shawls and things that I just showed you. This one, I don't remember. I think this was a single and a mohair from either Handmaiden or Fleece Artist, which are 2 companies that are just like sister companies, I believe. I'll put the link down below because I will remember. This was Polka Dot Creek fingering and mohair held together in a colorway. It's very similar to vintage. This was like a one of a kind of colorway, but it's very similar to the vintage colorway that they have. And this, I have no idea, because it was probably 5 or 6 years ago, 5 years ago that I knit this. I got some of this yarn in Vegas at the Sin City knit shop, and some of it I think I got it stashed, but I have absolutely no recollection of what any of those yarns are. These yarns in my Manhattan hat are both from Sunday Fibre Company, who is in Vancouver, and the worsted weight and the mohair are both from her. I can't remember the name of the colorway, but it's just like a really nice blushy pink. So I will put this on so you can see. And this was, again, Manhattan Hat Bulky. Oh, I gotta put it on straight though, so that you can see this is kind of Tory Knit's kind of signature design, is the sort of like hipsterish thing that sticks up at the top. So it's very thick because it's a bulky weight, it's worsted weight and mohair held together. So it's really thick, really warm for when it's really, really cold out, which it gets that way quite frequently in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. My other most frequently worn hat, did I say the name and designer of that one? Yes, I did. Okay, this one is probably my most frequently worn. And you've probably heard of it. It's called the Musselburgh, and it is by Isolde Teague. And this is the one that I wear pretty much every day in the winter. This yarn is Polka Dot Creek fingering weight, and it was a color that you can't get anymore, basically. So, but it's just like a light blushy pink with pink and it's pink. It's my favorite. So if you don't know what the Musselburgh is, it's just a double layer fingering weight toque. So you start at the top. Let me show you. Oh man. You start at the top with, like, the pattern calls for a crazy, like, circular, I can't remember what it's called. I call it the magic circle or whatever, because that's what they call it in crochet, but I can't remember what they call it anyway. Pinhole cast on, I think maybe is what they call it. And then you work out your increases out from there. I don't bother with that because it's too fiddly and fussy for me. So I just cast on it. You start out with 8 stitches. I'm not giving anything away as to the stitch counts for all the different sizes are different. You start out with 8 stitches. So I just start out with 8 stitches on magic loop, and I just do all my increases. And then I go back and sew shut the tiny little hole that's at the top. So if you're afraid of the tiny little crazy cast on at the beginning, just skip it. I give you permission. So you just start there, do your increases until you get to your stitch count for your size. The beauty of this pattern is that she gives you the stitch count for all kinds of different gauges. So you knit your increases until you've got enough room to measure an inch. So then you'll count your gauge for that inch, and then she will tell you how many stitches for each size with that gauge. So you can use fingering weight, you can use DK weight, you can use worsted weight. She has, I can't remember how many different gauges, but there's multiple different gauges. So whatever yarn you're working with will work for this. So anyway, you get to the end of your increases, and then you knit and knit and knit and knit. It's all stockinette, all in the round, beautiful. And then when you get to, you either knit to the length that she suggests, or what I do is I knit until there's about 10 grams left of yarn, and then you do your decreases, and you've got this big, long, weird shaped tube that's like, how is this a hat? And then you just take that end and you jam it up inside to fold it over so it becomes a double layer. And then you just kind of have to, like, pizza dough thing until it's all folded over and it's all even. This wasn't meant to be a Musselburgh tutorial, but now it is. And then fold over the brim, and Bob's your uncle. So the brim part that's around your head and your ears is 4 layers of fingering weight. And it's like, I knit mine at a pretty tight gauge, so it's nice and warm, and it's not, there's no holes that the wind's gonna blow through. I knit a second Musselburgh. This one is in, this is from Sea Turtle Fiber Arts, which is another local dyer in Calgary. And this is sparkly. I don't know if you can see the sparkle. I can't remember what the name of this colorway is, but it's a fingering weight sparkle yarn. I don't wear this one as much because this yarn, there's less yardage. Like the polka dot fingering weight yarn is my favorite base because it's a really light fingering weight. It's 463 yards to a skein to 100 grams. So I can make a really nice long tube and have a nice thick brim. And so with this one, there wasn't not as much yardage. So the tube wasn't as long and the brim isn't as long. So I should probably just give it to someone. Like, the yarn is pretty, it's beautiful. It's got like rainbow speckles all over it. But the brim isn't thick enough for me, for my personal taste. So I should probably just, maybe my kids might want to wear it or something. Okay, those are all my hats. Again, that was the Muscle Bra by Isolde Teague. I'm wearing my next accessory that I was going to show you. These are the Moonstone Mittens by Nicole Bracey, who is Woolfield Studio, I believe, on Instagram. She is a wonderful local maker designer. She is the manager of Stash Lounge, which is like yarn mecca here in Calgary. It's a wonderful, awesome knitting store, yarn store. They have lots of other crafts that they sell stuff for as well. But this is her design. These are a DK weight mittens. It has a really cute stitch pattern on them, which looks complicated, but isn't really once you understand the instructions. Pretty simple to do. I don't remember at all what yarn I used for this. It was a DK weight that I had. I made these quite a long time ago, probably at least 3 years ago. I wear them every winter, and like, I don't really need heavyweight mittens that are super, super like fluffy and cozy and warm. I'm not outside all that much. I don't have to stand outside to pick up my kids from school anymore. I just wait in my van and they come to me, which is amazing. So you'll notice they're not very long. I don't like a mitten that goes way high up, but obviously you can make the cuff as long or as short as you want. But anyway, these are the only mittens that I've ever made myself. I'm going to talk about gift knitting next. I've made about 1 million pairs of mittens, but these are the only ones I've made for myself, which is kind of silly. So I don't have any more other things to show you. I hope that this has been somewhat interesting or valuable in some way. I don't know. I just feel like I just did a fashion show. Fashion show, fashion show, fashion show at lunch. That one's for all you people who love The Office as much as I do. So my last thing I was going to talk about are the things that I knit for gifts. I have 2 patterns that I make repeatedly for gift knits. I try to make a gift knit for teachers every year. There's always something. There's always, I don't know, there's always something to make gifts for. It's usually teachers. But my 2 most knitted gift knits are The World's Simplest Mittens by Tin Can Knits. And I believe it's a free pattern. And I believe they also give you, I think it's also in a bunch of different gauges. So you can use fingering weight, DK, fingering plus mohair, whatever worsted. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, that it's a free pattern, but it's for a bunch of different gauges. I've made those so many times. I've made a bunch of like scrappy ones. I've made a bunch of like multicolored ones with mohair. I've made a lot of those as gift knits. They're they're called the world's simplest mittens because they're very simple to make. You basically just knit a tube and then you add a little thumb and you're done. It's very, very simple. I highly recommend that if you've never knit mittens before. It's an excellent pattern. Tin Can Knits make excellent patterns. Very user-friendly, beginner-friendly. They like lay everything out for you. The other pattern that I have made repeatedly is the Storm Shawl by Joji Locatelli. And I'll put a picture up here. And it's a really great, like if you want to give something a little bit nicer that's not like a hat or mittens, which are still amazing hand knit gifts, but people might not be like as enthusiastic about or like as appreciative of, which is ridiculous. But the Storm Shawl it's a single skein fingering weight shawl, but it blocks out really nice and like into a really nice big size because it has all of those drop shoulder. We're not talking about sweaters anymore, Melissa. We're talking about the Storm Shawl, and it has a whole bunch of drop stitches. So I think they're wrapped 2 or 3 or 4 times. If you haven't done a drop stitch before, it's actually quite fun. So you just like yarn over a bunch of times and then keep going and yarn over a bunch of times and yarn over a bunch of times. And then on the next row, you drop all those yarn overs and it just creates these big long drop stitches. And it looks really beautiful. And when you block it out, it makes the shawl so much bigger. So you get quite a good size shawl for one skein of yarn. So I use that one for gift knits quite a bit. It's a little bit fancier than mittens or a hat, but it's a little bit more knitting, but it's really pretty, and I find it fairly quick to knit up. Yeah, so I think those were all of my most worn knits, sweaters, cardigans, tops, accessories, etc. I hope that was somewhat interesting. I don't know, like I said, I feel like I just did a fashion show. It was fun for me to try on all my knits. Anyway, I will hopefully be back in a week or two with a regular podcast episode. And until then, happy knitting!